Sometimes the most profound connections happen when we stop trying to speak the same language. This story, which unfolded in the scorched valleys outside Tucson 4 years ago, reminds us that healing doesn't always come from doctors or therapists, or even from our own kind. Sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places, from creatures who know loss without words for it, who understand pain without naming it. I share this now because in our world of constant noise and explanation, we've forgotten the power of silent understanding. What happened between Walter Morrison, his dying dog, and a blind elephant calf wasn't a miracle. It was something rarer. Three beings choosing to stay present for each other when leaving would have been easier. This is their story, as it really happened, without embellishment or false hope, just truth. The elephant stood over Echo like a gray mountain shielding a pebble. Walter stopped breathing. His German shepherd hadn't moved in 10 minutes, sprawled on the barn floor in 100-degree heat, legs twitching in a way that made Walter's chest tight. The elephant, the one the sanctuary people called a lost cause, the one that hadn't made a sound in 8 weeks, lowered herself with impossible care until her bulk created a wall of shade. "What are you doing?" Walter whispered. The elephant's trunk moved across Echo's ribs, reading something Walter couldn't see. The dog's eyes had rolled back. Foam edged his mouth. The seizure had hit without warning while Walter was filling water troughs. And by the time he'd heard the thrashing, Echo was already deep in it. Marcus Johnson stood at the barn entrance, clipboard forgotten. The animal control officer had come for his monthly inspection, the one where he'd write up another violation. Another reason why Walter couldn't keep the elephant. Now he stood frozen. "She's never done this before," Walter said, though nobody had asked. The elephant's ear flicked toward his voice, but her attention stayed on Echo. Her trunk traced the air above the dog's head, never touching, like someone afraid to wake a sleeper. Then she did something that made Marcus drop his clipboard. She began to hum, not humming exactly, a vibration so low Walter felt it in his boots, in the barn walls, in his bones. The sound traveled through the packed dirt floor, through the hay bales stacked against the walls, through the very air until everything resonated with it. Echo's legs stopped twitching. "Jesus Christ," Marcus said, then caught himself. "Sorry. I know what you mean," Walter said. The elephant continued her sound, and Echo's breathing shifted from ragged gasps to something deeper. The dog's eyes rolled forward, focused, found Walter. His tail attempted a weak thump. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said quietly, "how long has she been able to do that?" "She doesn't do anything. She just knows things." The elephant's trunk finally made contact, the lightest touch on Echo's neck. The old dog sighed, a sound Walter recognized from their nights on the porch. When everything was safe and accounted for, Tom Brennan's truck pulled up outside, dust cloud announcing him before the engine cut. Walter heard his neighbor's boots on gravel, heard them stop at the barn entrance. "Came to check if you need—" Tom's voice died. The tableau held the elephant creating shade, the dog breathing steadily beneath her protection. 3 men, watching something none of them had words for. The afternoon sun slanted through the barn's gaps, casting lines of light across the elephant's scarred hide, scars Walter hadn't noticed before, long-healed marks that looked like they'd been made by chains. "The seizure's passing," Walter said, though he wasn't sure who he was telling. The elephant lifted her trunk, tested the air above Echo again. Satisfied with something only she could sense, she shifted her weight slightly, maintaining the shade but giving the dog more room. Echo rolled onto his stomach, shaky but attempting dignity. "That's my boy," Walter said. Tom cleared his throat. "Walter, I need to tell you something." "Not now, Tom." "No. You need to hear this." I called the sanctuary, told them about the petition, about forcing her to leave. Walter's hands clenched. You had no right. Shut up and listen. They told me something about her, about before. The elephant's ear swiveled toward Tom, though her blind eyes remained unfocused. She wasn't born blind, Tom said. Some kids at a roadside zoo in Nevada thought it would be funny to spray her with something. Oven cleaner, they think. She was 2 months old. The barn fell silent except for Echo's panting and the elephant's deep breathing. The mother tried to protect her after, but the baby couldn't find her to nurse, just kept walking in circles, calling. The mother gave up after 3 days, pushed her away. That's when the sanctuary took her. Walter looked at the elephant, at the way she held herself over Echo, protective and certain. They tried 4 different facilities, Tom continued. She wouldn't eat at any of them. They said she just stopped trying. Until you. Until Echo, Walter corrected. Marcus had retrieved his clipboard but wasn't writing. Mr. Morrison, I'm supposed to file a report today. So file it. I'm supposed to write that she's a danger, that she needs to be removed. She weighs 2,000 pounds and just saved my dog with more gentleness than most humans could manage. You write whatever you need to write. Marcus looked at the elephant, at Echo now trying to stand on wobbly legs, at Walter moving slowly to help his dog without startling the elephant. I could write, Marcus said slowly, that I observed the animal providing shade for livestock. That's agricultural use, falls under different regulations. Tom made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Echo's not livestock. German shepherds are working dogs on a ranch. That's livestock guardian classification. Marcus scribbled something on his form. I'll need to come back next week. Make sure the livestock is properly sheltered. The elephant finally moved, stepping back as Echo found his feet. The dog swayed, but stayed upright. Leaning against Walter's leg, the elephant's trunk reached out, stopped inches from Echo's face, waiting. Echo lifted his graying muzzle and touched his nose to the end of her trunk. I'll be damned, Tom said. Walter said nothing. He was thinking about scars that couldn't be seen, about mothers who push their young away, about creatures who stop trying until someone shows them why they should start again. He was thinking about nights in Vietnam when he'd gone silent for days, when his squad thought he'd given up, until a stray dog had crawled into his foxhole and stayed. Mr. Morrison, Marcus said, I need to ask you something off the record. Ask, does she have a name? Walter looked at the elephant, at the way she stood with her head tilted toward Echo's breathing, at the way her damaged eyes moved uselessly, but her whole body listened. Memory, he said. Her name is Memory. Marcus wrote nothing on his clipboard. I'll be back next week. Make sure your livestock has proper shelter by then. After the men left, Walter sat on a hay bale, Echo pressed against his leg, Memory standing close enough that her shadow covered them both. The barn settled into afternoon quiet, dust motes floating in the light beams, the smell of hay and animal and earth, mixing into something that meant home. You knew, didn't you? Walter asked. About Echo. You knew before it happened. And Memory's trunk swayed slightly. A motion Walter had learned meant she was thinking, or whatever elephants did instead of thinking. The vet says he doesn't have long, says the seizures will get worse. Walter's hand found Echo's head, fingers working through the familiar fur, says, I should consider options. Memory moved then, her bulk shifting until she stood directly in front of Walter. Her trunk reached out, touched his chest briefly, directly over his heart. Then she backed away, returned to her position as shade maker. Yeah, Walter said. I know you know. Echo sighed and closed his eyes, safe between his two guardians. Memory rumbled again, that low vibration that seemed to make the whole world settle into place. Walter leaned back against the barn wall and closed his own eyes, letting the sound work through him, through the old pain and the new fear, and the strange peace that came from being understood without words. Outside, the Arizona sun continued its brutal path across the sky. Inside the barn, 3 damaged creatures held vigil for each other, each knowing in their own way that some things didn't need fixing, just witnessing. The elephant hummed on, and the old soldier let her music work through his bones, through the places where shrapnel still lived, through the spaces where words had never been enough. He thought maybe this was what prayer was supposed to be, not asking for miracles, but sitting with what is, surrounded by unlikely grace. Echo's breathing deepened into sleep. Memories humming gentle to almost nothing, just a vibration in the air, a reminder. Walter kept his eyes closed and did something he hadn't done in 40 years. He hummed back. The note was wrong, too high, cracked from disuse. But Memory's ear turned toward him, and her trunk swayed in what looked like approval. So he tried again, lower this time, finding a resonance that matched hers, that made the barn walls sing just a little, that made Echo's tail twitch in his sleep. They stayed that way as the afternoon wore on, the blind elephant who'd learned to see through sound, the dying dog who'd found peace in her shadow, and the broken soldier who was finally, carefully, learning how to make music again. Before we continue, please leave a like and subscribe. Let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. Walter woke to Echo's whimpering. The clock read 3:47 a.m. His hand found the dog's flank in the dark muscles rigid, trembling beneath fur damp with sweat. The screen door squeaked. Memory stood outside, a shadow against stars. Her trunk traced the mesh, testing. She'd learned to open the barn latch 2 weeks ago. Now she waited at his house. Each time Echo struggled, Walter lifted Echo, bones prominent under loose skin, 80 pounds down to 60. The dog's head lolled against his shoulder. Each step across the porch sent pain shooting through Walter's bad knee, shrapnel from 69 still working its way out. Memory backed up as he approached, giving them room. Her trunk reached out, touched Echo's hanging paw. The dog's whimpering stopped. "Kitchen table," Walter muttered, though Memory couldn't understand. She followed them inside anyway, her bulk filling the doorframe. The overhead bulb cast harsh shadows. Echo's gums were pale, almost white. His breathing came in short bursts. Walter's fingers found the pulse at the dog's throat, rapid, thready. Memory's trunk appeared over his shoulder, scenting the air above Echo. She pulled back, made a sound Walter hadn't heard before, short, sharp, like a question. "I don't know," Walter answered. Headlights swept across the window. Too early for anyone decent. Walter grabbed the .38 from the drawer, checked the cylinder. Memory's ears flared. Tom Brennan stood on the porch, face drawn. "Commissioner called an emergency meeting, 7 a.m., about her. Echo's dying." "I know, I can see that. But if you're not there, they'll issue a removal order today." Walter's hand stayed on Echo's chest, counting breaths. "Then they'll have to come take her, with animal control and sheriffs. You want that today?" Memory's trunk touched Walter's wrist, pressed down gently. Walter looked at her useless eyes, at the way her whole body angled toward Echo, but also toward the door, toward whatever was coming. "Dr. Mitchell can meet us there," Tom said. "She's got new documentation, something about Memory's vocalization patterns. Might help." Echo's eyes opened, focused on Walter. The dog's tail moved, not a wag, just acknowledgement. "Still here, still trying. They've got news cameras coming," Tom added. Channel 12 wants a statement from you. Memory rumbled. The kitchen windows vibrated on the table. Echo lifted his head, looked directly at the elephant. 1 hour, Walter said. I need 1 hour. Tom nodded, turned to leave, stopped. Walter, that petition has 38 signatures now. The kitchen fell silent. Memory's trunk found Echo again, rested against his ribs. Walter felt the dog's heartbeat change, steady under her touch. 38 neighbors who wanted her gone. The council chambers smelled of burnt coffee and floor wax. Walter counted 17 people in folding chairs. Most he recognized Johnson from the feed store, the Hendricks couple who ran the roadside fruit stand, Mrs. Patterson with her oxygen tank. Channel 12's camera operator adjusted his tripod in the corner. Commissioner Janet Reeves shuffled papers at the elevated desk. Her reading glasses caught the fluorescent lights. Mr. Morrison, you've brought the animal. She's in the trailer with my dog, the one that's dying. This from Carl Hendricks, loud enough for the camera. Walter's jaw tightened. Memory's vocalization from the parking lot vibrated through the walls, low, continuous, meant for echo. Mr. Morrison, Commissioner Reeves said, we've received multiple complaints about harboring dangerous wildlife. You have 5 minutes to explain why we shouldn't issue an immediate removal order. Walter stood, his knee locked, then released. The microphone squealed when he pulled it close. 8 weeks ago, they brought her to my place. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat, started again. She hadn't eaten in 5 days, wouldn't stand. The sanctuary said she'd given up. Mrs. Patterson's oxygen machine hissed in the silence. I didn't try to fix her, didn't try to make her eat. Walter stopped, through the window. He could see his trailer rocking slightly, Memory shifting her weight. You just what Commissioner Reeves prompted. I sat there. Carl Hendricks snorted. You sat there. Every morning, brought my coffee. 5 a.m. until the heat got bad. 20 feet from her pen. Walter's hands found the podium edge. Splinters in the cheap wood caught his palm. My dog, Echo, he knew to stay back. 15 feet exactly, never closer. We didn't talk to her, didn't try to touch her. We just existed where she could hear us. Dr. Mitchell stood from the back row. If I may, Commissioner, what Mr. Morrison is describing is documented in elephant behavior studies. They respond to presence before interaction. This isn't a science class, Carl said. The thing's dangerous. She weighs 2,000 pounds. Walter said, everything she does could be dangerous, but 3 days after I started sitting there, her ear moved, just the right ear, turned toward where I was sitting, toward the sound of me breathing. The camera operator shifted angle. Red recording light, steady. Day 5, I fell asleep in the chair. When I woke up, the water bucket I'd left was empty. She'd drunk while I was sleeping, only when she thought nobody was watching. Etienne Brennan entered through the side door, phone in hand. He caught Walter's eye, shook his head. Echo was worse. Mr. Morrison, Commissioner Reeves said, this is touching, but it doesn't address the safety concerns. Day 7, she stood up. The room stilled. Echo's collar has tags. They jingle when he moves. Day 7, Echo stretched. Tags rang out, and she stood up, not for food, not for water, for the sound of my dog's collar. Through the window, Memory's trunk appeared above the trailer's edge, searching the air. She was listening for us. Walter continued, every morning, learning our sounds, the way Echo pants, the way my chair creaks, the way I breathe different from how I used to before the war, but steady, reliable. Mr. Morrison, she learned us before she learned to trust us. And when she finally did trust, when I opened that pen on day 10, she didn't run, didn't charge. She followed Echo's collar to the water trough and drank in front of us for the first time. Mrs. Patterson pulled her oxygen tube aside. How'd she know the dog was safe? Same way Echo knew she was safe? They recognized something in each other. Carl stood up. This is ridiculous. The animal's a liability. A sound cut through the wall, not Memory's usual rumble. High, urgent. Walter moved before thinking, bad knee screaming, hip grinding. He hit the door, crossed the parking lot. The trailer rocked violently. Inside, Echo lay on his side, legs rigid, back arched. A grand mall seizure, worse than any before. Foam tinged pink with blood where he'd bitten his tongue. Memory stood over him, trunk touching his convulsing body. That high, keening sound pouring from her. Walter dropped beside Echo. The dog's eyes had rolled back completely. His chest hitched, stopped, hitched again. Don't you quit on me! Memory's trunk pushed against Walter's tits. Not aggressive, insistent. She wanted him to move. The chamber door slammed open. Tom, Mitchell, half the meeting spilling into the parking lot. The camera operator running with his equipment. Memory positioned herself between them and Echo. Her blind eyes saw nothing but her body blocked everything. She lowered her head until her trunk could maintain contact with Echo while her bulk shielded him. Then she did something Walter had never seen. She began to sway left to right, a rhythm old as grief itself. Her keening shifted, became something else, not quite song, not quite prayer. Something between... Echo's legs stopped thrashing, his breathing smoothed, impossible, but Walter could see it, feel it under his hands. The dog's heart rate slowing from hummingbird fast to something sustainable. What's she doing? Dr. Mitchell whispered. Memory's swaying continued. 3 minutes, 4. The parking lot filled with people. Nobody spoke. Even Carl Hendricks stood silent. His mouth open. Echo's eyes rolled forward, focused on Walter. Tried to lift his head. Stay down, boy. Memory's trunk touched Walter's shoulder. Pressed once. Let go. She backed up, gave them room, but kept that sound going, that not-quite song that made the trailer walls hum. Commissioner Reeves stood at the trailer's gate. Mr. Morrison, we need to continue the hearing. Walter looked up at her, at the crowd, at the camera recording everything. No, he said. We don't. He lifted Echo. The dog weighed nothing now, like carrying a memory of what he'd been. Memory followed them out of the trailer, her presence massive and undeniable. Where are you going? Tom called. Home? To wait? Wait for what? Walter didn't answer, but Memory yet did. She raised her trunk toward the morning sky and made a sound none of them had heard before. Not keening, not humming. It sounded like calling. Calling what or who? The kitchen table held 3 items: Echo's medication bottles, Walter's untouched coffee, and the removal notice Tom had grabbed from the courthouse. 48 hours to relocate the elephant or face criminal charges. Echo lay where Walter had placed him on the wool blanket, each breath lifting his ribs like broken bellows. The dog's eyes tracked Memory through the window. She stood in the yard, hadn't moved in 2 hours, trunk hanging down, ears flat against her head. Walter's cell phone buzzed. Mitchell again. 5th call. He let it ring. The coffee had formed a skin on top. Walter pushed it aside, watched Memory's stillness. She'd stopped making that calling sound an hour ago. Now just silence. Echo whimpered. Walter knelt, joints popping, ran his hand along the dog's spine. Each vertebra prominent under thin fur. The seizure medication wasn't working anymore. The vet had said 2 days, maybe 3. Memory's head turned toward the house. Her trunk lifted, tested the air. Then she began walking toward the back door. Walter had never seen her approach the house on her own. She stopped at the porch steps, trunk reaching for the door handle. "You can't come in," Walter said through the screen. "You're too big." Her trunk found the mesh, pressed against it. The frame groaned. Echo lifted his head, tried to stand. His back legs wouldn't cooperate. He dragged himself forward, using his front paws, toward the door, toward memory. A wet trail marked his path across the linoleum. "Stop!" Walter moved to lift him back to the blanket. Echo's teeth found Walter's wrist. Not a bite, a grip. The dog's eyes locked on his, and Walter understood. Echo pulled himself another foot, another. Memory's trunk pushed harder against the screen. The mesh tore. Her trunk came through the hole, reaching. Echo dragged himself the final distance until his nose touched the searching tip. Memory made a sound so soft, Walter felt rather than heard it vibration through the floorboards, through his knees where they pressed against the floor. The dog's tail moved once. Tom's truck pulled up outside. Dust cloud visible through the living room window. Another vehicle behind it, Marcus Johnson's animal control van. A third sheriff's department. Walter stood, knee grinding. His hand found the .38 still on the counter from this morning. "Walter," Tom's voice through the torn screen, "don't make this worse. Go away, Tom. They've got a warrant. Legal removal. If you interfere, it's a felony." Memory's trunk withdrew from the hole. She backed away from the porch, positioned herself between the vehicles and the house. The ground vibrated under her feet. Walter could feel it through his boots. Marcus Johnson stepped out of his van, catch-pole in hand. "Mr. Morrison, we need you to secure your dog and step outside. Echo's dying." "I understand that, sir. But the elephant needs to be loaded for transport, where Sanctuary in Nevada has space. The one that couldn't keep her alive before Deputy Williams emerged from the sheriff's vehicle, hand resting on his service weapon. Young kid, maybe 25. Scared. Memory turned toward them. Her blind eyes saw nothing, but her ears tracked every movement, every breath. She made that calling sound again, longer this time, deeper. It rolled across the yard and into the desert beyond. "What's she doing?" Deputy Williams asked. Nobody answered because nobody knew. Echo dragged himself to the doorway, where the torn screen let in morning air. His breathing rattled. Pink foam at the corners of his mouth. Memory's head swung toward the sound, and she took 3 steps back toward the house, placing herself directly between Echo and the men. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said, "I'm going to need you to chain her to something so we can—" "She doesn't wear chains." "Then how do you control her?" Walter almost laughed. "I don't—" Dr. Mitchell's Subaru turned into the drive. Too fast. Gravel spinning. She got out running, tablet in hand. "Wait! Everyone wait!" "To Mitchell," Marcus said. "We have a court order." I know. But look at this." She held up the tablet, a sound wave pattern on screen. "I've been analyzing her vocalizations. That sound she's making, it's not random." Memory called again. Longer. The pattern on the tablet spiked. "It's at 15 hertz. Below human hearing range mostly, but elephants use it for long-distance communication. She's calling someone." "There aren't any other elephants for 500 miles, Tom said. "I know." Walter felt Echo's weight against his leg. The dog had managed to push through the ruined screen door, was now on the porch, panting hard. Too hard. Memory's call stopped mid-note. Her head snapped up, ears forward. She turned toward the eastern horizon, body rigid with attention. Then Walter heard it too. Felt it first, another vibration, answering, coming from the desert. What the hell is that? Deputy Williams' hand tightened on his weapon. A dust cloud appeared on the access road. Not a vehicle. Too low, too spread out, moving fast. Memory made a different sound, short, sharp, almost like recognition. She took 3 steps toward the approaching dust, then stopped. Torn between Echo behind her and whatever was coming, the dust cloud resolved into shapes. 3 of them. 4. Are those dots? Dr. Mitchell's tablet dropped from her hand. Horses. But not just horses. Wild mustangs. The kind that still ran the deep desert, that most people never saw. They stopped at the property line, heads high, nostrils flared. The lead mare, scarred, gray-white with age stamped once. Memory answered with another call. The mare's ears pricked forward. They're responding to her. Dr. Mitchell whispered, "Cross-species communication. This is impossible." But Walter was watching Echo. The dog's head had lifted, his clouded eyes tracking the horses, by sound or smell or something else entirely. His tail moved again, stronger this time. The lead mare took 1 step onto Walter's property, then another. Behind Walter, Echo made a sound he hadn't made in weeks. Not quite a bark, not quite a howl, something primal and old. The mare's head swung toward the porch, toward Echo. What happened next made no sense, would never make sense. But it was about to happen anyway. The lead mare crossed 30 feet of dirt in 3 strides. Deputy Williams reached for his weapon. Walter moved faster than he had in 20 years. Bad knee forgotten, hand clamping on the deputy's wrist. "Don't!" The mare stopped 10 feet from Memory. Dust settled between them. The other mustang's a bay stallion. 2 younger mares held position at the property line, muscles coiled, ready to bolt. Memory extended her trunk halfway, then pulled back. The mare's nostrils flared. Reading the elephant's scent, neither animal moved for 10 seconds. 20. Echo pulled himself forward on the porch, front legs shaking with effort. The movement drew the mare's attention, her ears pinned back, then forward. She took 2 steps toward the house. Memory shifted her weight, not quite blocking the horse's path, but angling her body. Protective, the mare stopped, snorted, pawed the ground once. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus whispered, "wild horses don't do this. Neither do blind elephants." The mare's head turned toward Walter's voice. Her eyes, dark amber, almost gold in the morning light, held intelligence that made his chest tight. Scarred neck, probably from barbed wire, ribs showing through dusty hide. Survivor. Dr. Mitchell retrieved her tablet with shaking hands, started recording. "This is unprecedented. The infrasound must have—" "Doc!" Tom interrupted. "Shut up!" The mare took another step. Memory allowed it. They stood close enough that their breath mingled in the space between them. Then the mare did something that made Marcus drop his catchpole. She lowered her head in submission to Memory. The elephant's trunk touched the horse's poll, gentle, between the ears where mother's nuzzle folds. The mare held still for 3 heartbeats, then backed away, rejoining her band at the fence line. But she kept watching Echo. The dog had managed to reach the porch edge. His breathing came in gasps that Walter could hear from 20 feet away. Pink foam bubbled from his nose now, not just his mouth. Internal bleeding, the seizure had torn something inside. Memory turned from the horses, moved toward Echo with steps that shook the ground. She stopped at the porch, trunk reaching for him. "He's dying." Walter's voice came out raw. "You know that." Memory's trunk touched Echo's head, traced the familiar shape. The dog's tail attempted movement, failed. The lead mare nickered soft, almost questioning. The sound pulled Echo's attention. His clouded eyes searched, found nothing. But his nose lifted, scenting. Walter knelt beside his dog. Echo's heartbeat under his palm irregular, weakening, maybe minutes, maybe an hour. "Mr. Morrison," Deputy Williams, voice unsteady, "we still have to remove the elephant." No. Tom Brennan stepped between the deputy and Walter. You don't... Sir, there's a court order. There's a dying dog and an elephant saying goodbye. Tom's voice carried across the yard. You want to enforce that order right now, in front of... He pointed at 3 cars, pulled over on the main road. People with phones out, recording. In front of them, more dust on the horizon. Channel 12's van, coming back. Marcus looked at the removal order in his hand. At Echo, barely breathing. At Memory, her trunk now resting on the dog's side. That low vibration starting again, the one that seemed to make the air itself hold still. How long? Marcus asked Walter. Soon. The animal control officer folded the paper, put it in his pocket. Deputy, we should secure the scene. Make sure those people stay off the property. Deputy Williams looked confused, but the elephant is providing comfort to a dying service animal. Marcus met Walter's eyes. That's what I'm going to write in my report. The mare at the fence line called out sharp, penetrating. Memory answered with a different tone, lower. They were talking, actually talking, Don Mitchell typed frantically on her phone. The frequencies match. They're modulating to find common... Her words cut off as Echo convulsed. Not a seizure this time. Final systemic failure. His legs went rigid, relaxed, went rigid again. Walter grabbed him, pulled the dog against his chest. Echo's eyes rolled, found Walter's face, focused with effort that Walter could feel in his own bones. It's okay. You can go. Echo's mouth opened. No sound came out, but his tongue moved like he was trying to speak, or bark one last time. Memory's trunk wrapped around both of them, not restraining, just present. The vibration she made changed pitch, became something Walter felt in his spine, in the metal fragment still embedded in his hip, in the place where grief lived. The horses moved, all 4 of them, walking along the fence line until they stood directly across from the porch. The lead mare lowered her head. The others followed. Echo saw them, somehow, through blindness and pain. He saw them. His tail moved one strong thump against the porch boards. Then stillness. Walter held the weight that had been Echo, lighter than Memory, heavier than anything. Memory's trunk tightened slightly around them. The horses held their position, heads still lowered. Even the wind stopped. Mr. Morrison, don't. And Walter didn't look up. Whatever you're going to say, don't. But it wasn't Marcus or Tom or the deputy. It was Dr. Mitchell. Tablet extended toward him, showing a wave pattern on the screen. She's still calling, the vet said quietly. The elephant, even now. She's calling. Calling what? I don't know. But something's answering. Walter lifted his head, listened, felt it through the ground, through Memory's body pressed against his another vibration, deeper than the first, coming from further out in the desert. The Mustang's heads snapped up simultaneously, ears pricked toward the east. Memory pulled back from Walter, turned toward the horizon. Her blind eyes saw nothing but her whole body oriented toward something approaching. Something big. The news van pulled up, camera already rolling. Marcus moved to block them, but stopped, staring past them at the access road. Another dust cloud, bigger than the horses had made, much bigger. What did she call? Walter asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted the answer. Dr. Mitchell's tablet showed new patterns, overlapping frequencies. I think she called everyone who could hear. The dust cloud separated into shapes. More horse, 12, 2 dozen, different bands that should never run together, now moving in as one mass toward Walter's property. Behind them, something else, larger shapes in the settling dust. Are those cattle? Tom asked. No, not cattle. 3 elk, far from their mountain territory, 2 desert bighorn sheep, a mother javelina with the young. They stopped at the road, spreading out along the fence line. watching, waiting. Memory lifted her trunk toward the sky and made a sound Walter had never heard from any living thing, loss and calling and finality, all at once. The gathered animals answered, each in their own voice, their own frequency, but somehow harmonizing. Echo lay still in Walter's arms, but around him, the desert itself seemed to be gathering, responding to an elephant's grief. "My God," someone whispered. Walter looked down at his dog, at the gray muzzle he'd kissed goodnight for 11 years, at the paws that had walked beside him through nightmares and flashbacks and slow Sunday mornings. "We need to bury him," Walter said. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said softly. "The removal order can wait." This from Commissioner Reeves, standing by the news van, having arrived unnoticed. "It can wait." Walter stood, Echo's body against his chest. Memory's trunk touched the dog once more, gentle as a mother's kiss. Then she did something that broke Walter in the ways Vietnam never had. She began to dig. Her massive feet pushed at the earth beside the porch, where Echo liked to lie in the shade, scooping dirt, moving it aside, creating a hole sized for a dog. The horses watched, the elk, the sheep, the javelinas, silent witnesses to something none of them should understand but somehow did. Memory stepped back from the grave she'd made, looked at Walter with eyes that couldn't see but knew everything necessary. Walter took the first step toward the hole. His knee buckled. Tom caught him, helped him walk the 10 feet that felt like 10 miles. Together they lowered Echo into the earth. That's when Walter noticed the sound, not from memory, not from the gathered animals, from the people, the ones who'd stopped on the road, who'd gotten out of their cars. They were humming, no melody, just a low, continuous note that matched the frequency Memory had been making. 38 signatures on a petition to remove her. But here, now, at least a dozen of those same people stood humming along with an elephant's grief. Mrs. Patterson, oxygen tank and all, had gotten out of someone's car and stood at the fence. Carl Hendricks beside her, his mouth moving with the wordless song. Walter looked at Memory, at the animals, at his neighbors. "What happens now?" he asked, though he wasn't sure who he was asking. Memory answered by resuming her digging, widening the grave, making it deeper. The Mustangs began pawing at the ground on their side of the fence, not aggressive, rhythmic, like a drum beat for the dead. Commissioner Reeves walked past the deputy, past Marcus, past Tom. She stood beside Walter, looked down at Echo in his grave. "Mr. Morrison, do you know what day it is?" Walter couldn't think, could barely stand. "It's November 11th, she said. "Veterans Day." She pulled out her phone, typed something, showed him the screen, a photo from the county records. A young man in uniform, her son, KIA, Kandahar, 20. She said, "He had a dog over there. Called her Lucky." Walter's throat closed. "The elephant stays," Commissioner Reeves said, loud enough for the cameras to hear. "Emergency injunction. We'll figure out the paperwork later." Memory stopped digging. The hole was deep enough. She stepped back, trunk swaying. Walter knelt at the grave's edge. Tom handed him something, Echo's collar, tags still attached, the ones that had jingled every morning, telling Memory where safety was. He almost put them in the grave, then stopped, turned to Memory, held out the collar. Her trunk found it, explored the familiar shape and sound. Then she did something that would make the evening news in 43 states. She placed it around her own neck, gently, precisely. The tags rang out once in the morning air. Every animal along the fence line went silent. Walter picked up the first handful of dirt. Before he could drop it, Memory's trunk stopped him. She took the earth from his hand, held it for a moment. Then, with infinite care, She began to cover Echo herself. The animals stayed until sunset. Walter counted them from the porch: 17 mustangs, 3 elk, as ye javelinas, the pair of bighorn sheep. They'd formed a rough semicircle around Echo's grave, some grazing, others standing watch. Memory hadn't moved from her position beside the fresh-turned earth. Echo's collar tags caught the late afternoon light when she breathed. Tom brought a thermos of coffee around 4, set it on the porch rail without speaking. His truck hadn't left Walter's drive all day. "Your cattle need tending," Walter said. "They'll keep." Commissioner Reeves' car was still parked by the fence. She'd set up a folding table, laptop and phone out, making calls. The Channel 12 van had left and returned twice, different reporters each time. Marcus Johnson sat on the tailgate of his animal control van, removal order still folded in his pocket. The deputy had left hours ago after his supervisor called, then called again. Dr. Mitchell approached with her tablet, bootsteps soft on the dirt. "Mr. Morrison, I need to show you something." Walter didn't want to see anything, didn't want to think or plan or understand, but the vet's face made him look. "The horses," she said, showing him a map on the screen. "These Mustang bands, they came from different territories, some from 40 miles away. Red dots marked on a topographical display, convergence lines. They started moving yesterday, before Echo's seizure, before Memory started calling." Walter stared at the patterns. "That's not possible." "I know." Memory shifted position slightly, trunk touching the disturbed earth. One of the younger mares approached the fence, nickered softly. Memory's ear turned toward the sound, but she didn't respond. Carl Hendricks's pickup turned into the drive. Walter's hand tightened on the porch rail. The man who'd started the petition, who'd called Memory dangerous, who'd wanted her gone from day one. Carl parked, got out slow, carried something wrapped in burlap. He stopped 20 feet from the porch, looked at Walter, then at Memory, then at the ground. "I brought something." Walter said nothing. Carl unwrapped the burlap. Inside was a piece of sandstone, flat and smooth. Someone had carved into it with care, not professional, but careful. "Echo," in block letters. Below that, "A good dog. My grandson did the letters," Carl said. "He's 12. Saw the news this morning." The stone had weight to it when Carl handed it over. Desert worm from sitting in the truck. "Why?" Walter asked. Carl's jaw worked. "I had a dog in Korea 63 years ago. Found him half dead in a bombed-out village. Fed him from my rations for 8 months. When my tour ended, they wouldn't let me bring him home." He stopped, cleared his throat. "Last thing I saw was him chasing the transport truck, ran until he couldn't anymore." Walter set the stone on the porch rail. "That why you wanted Memory gone, because she reminded you?" "No." Carl looked directly at him. "Because I was afraid of caring about something that could be taken away again." One of the elk lifted its head, massive antlers catching the light. It bugled once long, mournful, carrying across the desert. Memory answered with her subsonic rumble, and every animal along the fence line shifted, attentive. Mrs. Patterson's nephew's truck pulled up. He helped her out with her oxygen tank, walked her slow to where Commissioner Reeves worked. "Janet," Miss Patterson wheezed, "where's that petition?" "Which petition?" "The one to remove the elephant. I want my name off it." Commissioner Reeves pulled out a folder. "You can't actually remove a signature once." "Then I'll sign something else, a new petition, to keep her." She looked at Walter, eyes watery behind thick glasses. "My husband died alone in the VA hospital in Phoenix. I was stuck in traffic, couldn't get there." She adjusted her oxygen tube. "Nobody should die alone. That dog didn't die alone." Tom's phone rang. He answered, listened, handed it to Walter. "It's Channel 7, Phoenix Station. They want a statement." Walter gave the phone back. "No." But Tom didn't put it away. "Walter, listen. The story's gone national. 3 news trucks coming from Tucson. CNN called the commissioner's office. So tell them the truth about memory, about what she did for Echo, about what Echo did for you. That's nobody's business." Tom moved closer, voice dropping. "You know what else they're reporting? That you're the Walter Morrison? The one from Firebase Alpha, the one who went back for the dog handler when the base got overrun." Walter's chest tightened. "That's not..." "Bullshit. My cousin works at the VA. Pulled your records when this started. Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and you never told anyone." "Because it doesn't matter. It does to them." Tom pointed at the growing crowd along the road, more cars arriving. "And it matters to memory. You think that emergency injunction's going to hold commissioners buying time, but without public pressure." Memory's trunk rose suddenly, scenting the air. The Mustangs' heads all turned east, toward the mountains. The elk stepped back from the fence. Another vibration through the ground, not animals this time. "Helicopter," Tom said. It appeared over the ridge, black. No news markings, military or federal. It circled once, then headed for the flat area behind Walter's barn. "Who called them?" Walter asked. Commissioner Reeves closed her laptop. Stood. "I did." "Why?" "Because someone at the Pentagon saw the news. They want to talk to you." The helicopter settled in a cloud of dust. The Mustangs held their ground, but the elk retreated. Memory positioned herself between the aircraft and Echo's grave. 2 men emerged, one in uniform, Army colonel, the other in a suit, carrying a briefcase. They approached with the kind of careful respect Walter recognized. The colonel stopped, saluted. Walter didn't return it. "Mr. Morrison, Colonel James Mitchell. This is Dr. Robert Stone from the Veterans Administration. We've got a removal order situation here," Walter said. "Unless you hear about that." "We are." The colonel pulled out a tablet. "This was taken yesterday at Walter Reed, with permission." Video played. A therapy room, a young soldier, maybe 22, in a wheelchair, both legs gone below the knee. He stared at nothing while a therapist tried to engage him. Then someone played audio from a phone. Memory's call from this morning, that deep. Grieving sound she'd made for Echo. The soldier's head turned, his eyes focused. He said the first words he'd spoken in 6 weeks. "What is that?" The colonel put the tablet away. "Sergeant Davis was at FOB Chapman when it got hit. Lost his whole squad and his legs. Hasn't responded to any treatment until he heard your elephant." "She's not my elephant." "No. But she's doing something we don't understand. Something that reaches people who can't be reached any other way." The colonel looked at Memory, still standing guard. "We'd like to study it with your cooperation. Study her like a lab animal." "No. Study the connection between her and veterans. We'll send people here, if you're willing, soldiers who've gone quiet. See if she can wake them up." Dr. Stone opened his briefcase. "This is a proposal. The VA would designate your property as a research site, federal protection. No local removal orders could override it." Walter looked at the paperwork, dense text, government seals. "And if I say no, then we leave," the colonel said. "But, Mr. Morrison, I've got 300 soldiers at Walter Reed who haven't spoken since they came home. If there's even a chance." Memory moved then, walked to the helicopter, trunk extended toward it. The 2 men stepped aside. She investigated the machine with careful touches, learning its shape. One of the Mustangs, the lead mare, walked along the fence, until she stood parallel to memory. The elephant's ear turned toward her. Some communication passed between them that had nothing to do with sound. The mare snorted once, then began walking away. The other mustangs followed. Then the elk, the javelinas, the bighorn sheep. Not fleeing, just finished. Whatever they'd come to do was done in minutes. Only memory remained, standing between the helicopter and Echo's grave. "Mr. Morrison," Dr. Stone had said, "there's something else you should know." He pulled out another paper. "Your tax records, every month for the past 10 years. You've donated your entire disability check. Different animal rescues, veterinary clinics, service dog organizations." Walter's face heated. "That's private." "Not anymore. Someone leaked it to the press an hour ago." Tom laughed, short, sharp. "You've been living on just the ranch income. That's nothing. That's poverty level." "It's enough." Commissioner Reeves approached with her phone. "Mr. Morrison, I've got 17 calls from veteran organizations wanting to help. American Legion, VF, Wounded Warriors. They're offering legal support, funding for Memory's care, whatever you need." "Too much, too fast." Walter's hands shook, not the usual tremor. Something deeper. Memory's trunk found him, wrapped around his arm, steady and sure. The contact grounded him, pulled him back from the edge of whatever panic was building. "I need everyone to leave," Walter said. "Mr. Morrison, everyone, now." The colonel nodded, motioned to the doctor. Commissioner Reeves gathered her things. Tom started to protest, stopped when he saw Walter's face. They left in a convoy helicopter, lifting off, cars following. Only Marcus Johnson remained, still sitting on his van's tailgate. "You too," Walter said. Marcus stood, stretched. "Can't, still got a removal order to execute or refuse. Until I do one or the other, I'm on duty." He checked his watch. "Of course, I might have to camp here overnight, maybe longer. Paperwork's complicated." Walter almost smiled. Almost. Memory pulled him gently toward Echo's grave. She'd finished covering it while everyone was distracted. The earth was packed smooth, level, waiting for Carl's stone marker. Walter placed it at the head of the grave. Memory's trunk traced the carved letters. "He knew, didn't he?" Walter said. "Echo, he knew you'd take care of things." Memory made a sound, not the calling from before, not the grieving, something quieter, private. The sun touched the mountains. In the cooling air, Walter caught a scent that made him stop breathing. Smoke, but not wood smoke. Cigarettes? He turned toward the smell. A figure stood at the property line, barely visible in the failing light. Tall, thin, wearing an old field jacket. The man lifted his hand, a wave or salute. Walter couldn't tell, then turned and walked into the desert. Walter knew that walk, that jacket. But Danny Rodriguez had died at Firebase Alpha 53 years ago. Memory's trunk tightened on his arm. Not comfort this time. Warning. Walter didn't sleep. He sat on the porch with Memory standing 10 feet away, her trunk occasionally lifting to test the air. The cigarette smell had faded, but something else remained cordite, maybe, or the ghost of it. The field jacket figure hadn't returned. Marcus Johnson had moved his van closer, parked where he could see both the road and Walter's porch. The removal order glowed white on his dashboard. At 3 a.m., Memory made a sound, not her calling, not the grief rumble, something Walter hadn't heard before, short, sharp, almost like a question. Her blind eyes turned toward the desert. "Nothing there," Walter said. But his hands were checking the .38 anyway. Muscle memory from nights when the perimeter wire sang with movement. Memory's ears tracked something Walter couldn't see. She took 3 steps toward the property line, stopped. Her trunk swept left, right, reading air currents. Footsteps on gravel. Walter's finger found the trigger guard. Tom Brennan, emerged from darkness, carrying a rifle. "Saw your lights on. Checking cattle at 3 in the morning. Saw someone on my property. Tall guy, old military jacket. Walked right through my fence line, heading this direction." Walter's throat tightened. "You get a look at his face." "No, but Walter—" Tom set the rifle down, pulled something from his pocket. A cigarette butt. Lucky strike. "Found this where he crossed. Nobody's smoked these in years." Danny Rodriguez had smoked Lucky Strikes, 3 packs a day until the night Firebase Alpha got overrun. Memory's trunk touched the cigarette butt in Tom's hand. She pulled back immediately, made that questioning sound again. "She doesn't like it," Tom said. "She knows dead." Walter said, "Knows the smell of it." Marcus walked over from his van, duty belt creaking. "Mr. Morrison, you want me to call this in?" "Got a potential trespasser." "No." But Marcus was already looking at the cigarette. "That's an old brand. My grandfather smoked those." Memory moved between them and the desert, positioning her bulk as a wall. Echo's collar tags rang softly with the movement. The sound made Walter's chest hollow. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said carefully, "when's the last time you slept?" "Echo died 9 hours ago." "That's not what I asked." Walter couldn't remember. Days blurred together Echo's seizures. The hearing, the animals arriving. When had he last closed his eyes for more than minutes? Tom's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, handed it to Walter. "Doc Mitchell. Says it's urgent. Mr. Morrison." The vet's voice was tight. "I'm at the sanctuary. We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "3 of our elephants are displaying the same behavior Memory did yesterday. Making that calling sound. They're facing your direction." Walter looked at Memory. She stood rigid, ears forward, every line of her body focused on something beyond the fence. "There's more," Mitchell continued. "I've been checking with other facilities. San Diego Zoo, Phoenix, the rescue in Texas. 17 elephants total, all started calling at the same frequency within the last hour. Calling what? I don't know. But Mr. Morrison, they're all blind or visually impaired. Every single one." Memory's trunk rose, extended fully toward the darkness. Then she did something Walter had only seen once before, the day Echo had his first seizure. She stepped backward, away from whatever she sensed out there. Tom grabbed his rifle. Marcus unsnapped his holster. A shape materialized at the property line. Not the figure in the field jacket. Smaller. 4-legged. A dog, German Shepherd mix, thin, favoring its left front leg. It stopped just outside the fence, sat, looked directly at Walter. "That's not possible," Walter whispered. The dog's head tilted right side, the way Echo used to when Walter talked to him. Same angle, same timing. Memory made a sound that was almost a scream. Not fear, recognition. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said. "That's just a stray. Has probably smelled food." But Memory was already moving. She reached the fence in 4 strides, trunk extending through the rails toward the dog. The dog didn't flinch, didn't move, just sat there while Memory's trunk traced its outline. Then it barked, once. The exact pitch, duration, and timbre of Echo's alert bark. Tom's rifle clattered on the gravel. "Jesus! Jesus Christ!" "I said no blasphemy," Walter said automatically, but his voice shook. The dog stood, walked along the fence line toward the gate. Memory followed on her side, trunk never losing contact through the rails. They moved together like they'd done this 1,000 times. Walter's legs carried him forward without conscious thought. The gate latch was cold under his fingers. The dog waited while he fumbled with it, patient in a way that made Walter's vision blur, gate open. The dog walked through, past Walter, past Tom and Marcus, straight to Echo's grave. It circled the fresh earth 3 times, then lay down exactly where Echo used to lie when keeping watch. Memory approached slowly. Her trunk touched the dog's head, traveled down its spine, paused at the left shoulder. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said quietly, "that dog's got a scar. Old one. Looks like shrapnel," Walter finished. "Left shoulder. From the night the firebase got hit." But Echo had been wounded in the right shoulder. The dog's eyes caught the porch light, not brown like Echo's, green gold, and younger, maybe 3 years old, not 11. Memory settled beside the grave, beside the new dog, the stranger that wasn't a stranger. Echo's tags on her collar caught moonlight as she moved. Walter approached them. The dog lifted its head, looked at him with those wrong-colored eyes that somehow held the right expression. "You're not him," Walter said. The dog's tail wagged once. Agreement. "But you know him." Another wag. Tom cleared his throat. "Walter, dogs don't reincarnate." Walter laughed, sharp and bitter. "Dead soldiers don't smoke Lucky Strikes on my property line either." Dr. Mitchell's voice crackled from Tosh's forgotten phone on the ground. "Mr. Morrison, are you there?" The elephants stopped calling, all of them, at exactly 3:47 a.m. Walter looked at his watch, 3:48. The new dog stood, walked to Walter, sat at his left side, exactly where Echo used to position himself. Its weight against Walter's leg was different, lighter, bones arranged differently, but the pressure was the same. The message was the same. Still here. Memory's trunk touched Walter's shoulder, then the dog's head, connecting them. Her rumble started low, rose to include frequencies Walter felt more than heard. "Mr. Morrison," Marcus said, "I'm going to need you to tell me what's happening here." Walter's hand found the dog's head. Different fur texture, different ear shape, but the way it leaned into his touch. "I don't know." The dog turned toward the desert. Memory's blind eyes followed the same direction. Something was still out there. Something that had brought this dog, or sent it, or cigarette smoke drifted across the yard again. Stronger this time. The dog growled, not Echo's growl. Deeper, more warning in it. Memory stood, positioning herself between Walter and the desert, protective, ready. "Tom," Walter said, "you still got that rifle handy?" "Yeah." "Good." Because footsteps were approaching again. Multiple sets, moving in formation. The way a squad moves through a hostile territory, the dog's hackles rose. Memory's ears flared wide. And Walter would swear on Echo's grave that he heard radio static from 19s crackling somewhere in the darkness. Firebase Alpha, this is Ghost Dog 6. Do you copy?" The dog barked twice. Pattern recognition, radio confirmation protocol. They were coming. All of them. The footsteps stopped 40 feet out. Walter's hand tightened on the 38. The new dog held position at his left side, growling low and continuous. Memory's trunk swept the air in wide arcs, reading what Walter couldn't see. "Walter," Tom whispered, "there's nobody there." But Walter could smell them, see ration beef, gun oil, that particular stink of jungle rot that never washed out of boots. His finger found the trigger guard. "Mr. Morrison." Marcus had his flashlight out, but not on. "You want me to light them up?" "No." The dog barked twice. Radio protocol again, requesting identification. Silence from the darkness. Then a sound Walter knew in his bones, the distinctive click of a Zippo lighter opening. Flint strike, flame. The light illuminated a face. Not Danny Rodriguez. Walter lowered the gun. His knees went liquid. Tom caught his arm, kept him upright. "Hello, Morrison." The man was maybe 70, Asian features, wearing an old field jacket with unit patches removed. He killed the lighter, but Walter could still see him now, thin, bent, favoring his right side. Nguyen, different name now, but yeah, Gwyn Van Duck, Arvin translators attached to Firebase Alpha, last seen carrying wounded through mortar fire after the perimeter collapsed. Walter had searched for him among the bodies. Never found him. You died, Walter said. Almost. Americans left me for dead. VC found me first. 3 years in a hole. Then they forgot about me, too. Nguyen stepped closer, into the edge of the porch light. Burn scars covered the left side of his face. Took me 50 years to find you. Memory's growling stopped. Her trunk lowered. The new dog sat but stayed alert. The cigarettes, Walter said. Lucky strikes. Danny's last pack. Kept them all this time. Thought you should have them. Nguyen pulled the pack from his pocket, set it on a fence post. He talked about you in the hole when the fever got bad. Said you'd come back for us. I tried. I know. Nguyen's hand rose, silencing him. I know what you tried. Tom still had his rifle raised. Walter, you know this man. Yeah. From the war. From the end of it. Nguyen looked at Echo's grave, at the stone marker. Your dog. The one from the firebase? His descendant? Or... Walter looked at the new dog. I don't know anymore. I brought something. Nguyen reached into his jacket slowly, aware of the weapons pointed at him. He pulled out cloth, unwrapped it, metal caught the light. Dog tags, 3 sets. Rodriguez, Johnson, Adams. Nguyen read each name. Found them where the command bunker used to be. Thought their families should have them. Walter's throat closed. Those names, those boys, 19, 20, 22 years old. How did you find me? Saw the news. Elephant and the dog. Recognized your face? Nguyen smiled, half his mouth not working right from the burns. Still looked like a scared corporal trying to hold a firebase together. I failed. You got 17 men out. I counted from my hole. Memory moved then. Slow, careful steps toward Nguyen. Her trunk extended, stopped inches from his scarred face. She's blind, Walter said. I can see that. Nguyen didn't move as Memory's trunk traced the air around him. But she knows, doesn't she? What we carry. The elephants! DeMitchell's voice crackled from Tom's phone. They're calling again. Marcus picked up the phone. Doc, hey, it's Officer Johnson. What do you mean calling? Different frequency this time. Not grief. Something else. A memory pulled back from Nguyen, turned east. The new dog stood. Faced the same direction. More footsteps. Multiple people this time. No attempt at stealth. 3 figures emerged from the darkness. 2 men, 1 woman, all wearing military veteran hats. Vietnam, Desert Storm, Afghanistan. Mr. Morrison. The woman spoke first. We saw the news. Drove from Phoenix. It's 4 in the morning, Walter said. Couldn't sleep. She stepped into the light. Young, maybe 30. Missing left arm, below the elbow. Haven't slept right since Helmand. One of the men, Vietnam hat, spoke up. Tet offensive, 68. His hands shook with palsy. Heard about your elephant. How she helped your dog? Thought maybe. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. The new dog walked to the woman, sniffed her prosthetic, then sat beside her. She looked down, surprised. He usually afraid of people. Just met him an hour ago, Walter said. But he's yours. Walter looked at the dog's green-gold eyes. Apparently. Memory approached the group. They stood still while she investigated each person with her trunk. When she reached the Vietnam veteran with palsy, she stopped, made that low humming sound, the one that had calmed Echo's seizures. The man's hands stopped shaking, not completely, but noticeably. How? He whispered. Nobody knows, Marcus said, finally lowering his duty weapon. More headlights on the access road. 2 cars, 3, a pickup truck. Christ, Tom said. How many people saw that news story? 20 million, last count. Dr. Mitchell's voice from the phone. It's trending nationally. The vehicles parked along the fence. People got out, some in pajamas with jackets thrown over, some fully dressed like they'd never gone to bed. Walter recognized faces from town. The mechanic who'd fixed his truck, the librarian, the kid who bagged groceries at Safeway. But others were strangers. A man with a service dog, a woman on crutches, a teenager in a wheelchair pushed by his mother. They didn't approach the house, just stood at the fence line, waiting. Mr. Morrison, it's Toots, Marcus said. This is about to become a situation. It already is one. Memory left the veterans, walked to the fence. The crowd stepped back, but she just stood there, trunk hanging over the rail, waiting. The teenager in the wheelchair spoke first. Can I touch her? His mother started to shush him. It's okay, Walter said. She won't hurt anyone. The boy wheeled himself to the fence, reached out with a hand that trembled, not fear. Something neurological. Memory's trunk met his fingers halfway. The boy smiled for what his mother later said was the first time in 8 months. Walter, Tom said quietly, you can't let all these people. Yes, Commissioner Reeves has said, walking up from wherever she'd been waiting. He can't. She held up her tablet, showing an official document. Emergency variance approved. Your property is now designated as a temporary trauma rehabilitation facility. Federal backing, Homeland Security clearance based on military service. When did you? Started the paperwork the minute that Colonel left. Called in every favor I had. She looked at the growing crowd. Figured something like this might happen. The new dog walked back to Walter, leaned against his leg. Different weight than Echo, but the same message. I'm here. You're here. We're okay. And Nguyen approached, stood beside Walter. In the camp, when the guards got bored of beating us, know what kept me alive? Walter waited. Danny talking about his dog back home. How she'd wait by the door every day at 1600 knowing he'd come home from school. How she knew he was sick before anyone else did. Nguyen looked at Memory. Maybe that's what they do. Know things before we do. Mr. Morrison! A shout from the crowd. A man pushed through, carrying something wrapped in blankets. The crowd parted. The bundle was moving. Please, the man said. Please, it's my daughter's dog. Got hit by a car. Vet said nothing they could do, but I saw on the news. The bundle whimpered. Blood soaked through the blanket. I'm not a vet, Walter said. But she is. The man looked at Memory. Please? Yet Memory was already moving. She met the man at the gate, trunk extending toward the bundle. The whimpering stopped. The dog, a beagle. Walter could see now went quiet, but its eyes stayed open, focused on the elephant. Memory began humming, that same frequency she'd used for Echo, for the veteran with palsy. The crowd went silent. Even the wind stopped. The beagle's breathing steadied to its tail, visible through the blanket, twitched. The bleeding stopping, the man whispered. How is the bleeding stopping? To Mitchell's voice from the phone, forgotten in Marcus's hand. The elephants here are all doing it, all humming at the same frequency. We're recording everything, but the equipment can't wait. Something's happening. A sound rose from the desert, low, thrumming, like the earth itself was resonating. The new dog tilted his head back and howled, not a normal howl, but something that harmonized with Memory's hum. Then, from the darkness beyond the fence, answers came. Coyotes first, their yips modulating to match the frequency. Then something deeper, the bark of ranch dogs from miles away. A horse's whinny from Tom's property. Cattle lowing, whoost. Every animal within hearing was joining the sound. Mr. Morrison, Commissioner Reeves said, voice shaky. What is this? Walter looked at Echo's grave, at memory standing guard over a dying dog, at the crowd of broken people drawn here by something none of them could name. "I think," he said slowly, "it's what prayer sounds like when you take the words away." The new dog pressed harder against his leg. Walter's hand found its head, felt the warmth, the life, the impossible familiarity. That's when he noticed the dog's collar, leather, worn with a brass plate. He knelt, angled it toward the light to read. The plate was blank except for 3 numbers, 347. The same numbers from Echo's service number in Vietnam. The numbers tattooed inside his ear when he was a military working dog. "That's not possible," Walter said. The dog looked at him with those green-gold eyes and wagged once. Then memory's humming stopped. The desert went silent. The beagle in the blanket lifted its head and licked the man's face. Dawn came slow, pink, bleeding across the mountains. The crowd had thinned, but not disappeared. 20 people remained at the fence, some sitting in lawn chairs they'd brought, others leaning against vehicles. The man with the beagle had left for the emergency vet, tears streaming down his face. Walter sat on the porch steps. The new dog pressed against his thigh. Memory stood over Echo's grave. Hadn't moved in an hour. Her trunk occasionally touched the earth, checking something only she understood. "Mr. Morrison," Commissioner Reeves approached with a thermos. "Coffee, real stuff, not that courthouse swill." The steam rose between them, bitter and necessary. "The hearing's in 3 hours," she continued. "You need to be there." "Or what?" "Or I can't stop the removal order. Emergency variance only holds until the formal review." Wynne sat down on Walter's other side. Movement stiff, 50 years in America. But he still folded himself the Vietnamese way, compact and careful. "I'll testify," Gwynne said. "Tell them what I saw. A phantom from 1969. Walter's laugh had no humor in it. "That'll help. Not a phantom, just a man who took too long to say thank you." The new dog lifted its head, ears pricked toward the road. Another vehicle approaching, white van, medical markings. Dr. Mitchell got out, hauling equipment bags. Her clothes were wrinkled, hair unwashed. "Mr. Morrison, I need to examine memory, document everything before the hearing. She's grieving, I know, but if we can't prove she's physically healthy, stress-free." The vet stopped, really looked at memory for the first time. "Has she been standing there all night, since the crowd left?" Dr. Mitchell approached slowly, speaking soft, nonsense words. Memory's ear tracked her, but nothing else moved. The vet ran her hands along Memory's flank, checked her eyes, tested reflexes. "Her heart rate's normal. No signs of distress. Actually, her vitals are better than last week." Dr. Mitchell pulled out a tablet, started recording. "This is remarkable. Most elephants in grief show elevated cortisol, reduced appetite." "She's not in grief," Walter said. Everyone turned to look at him. "She's standing watch, different thing." The new dog stood, stretched, walked to Memory. It sat beside her, nose pointing toward Echo's grave. Memory's trunk touched the dog's head once, brief acknowledgement, then returned to stillness. Tom's truck rattled up the drive. He got out carrying lumber, fence posts, hardware. Figured we'd need proper barriers if people keep coming. "They will," Commissioner Reeves said. "Phone's been ringing non-stop. Veterans groups from 5 states want to bring people here." "This isn't a zoo," Walter said. "No, but it might be something else." She pulled out her tablet, showed him messages. "Trauma specialists, neurologists, 3 universities wanting to study the frequency she produces. They're calling it therapeutic infrasound. They're calling it wrong." Marcus Johnson, who'd been quiet since dawn, spoke up. "What would you call it, Mr. Morrison?" Walter looked at Memory, at the dog with impossible numbers on its collar, at Nguyen, who'd carried ghosts for 50 years just to return dog tags. Recognition, he said. She recognizes what needs recognizing. The courthouse was already full when they arrived. Camera crews from 3 networks, reporter from the Washington Post, someone from the Pentagon in dress uniform. Walter sat at the defendant's table, felt every eye on him. The new dog lay at his feet. Marcus had designated it a service animal. Paperwork rushed through. Memory remained at the ranch, with Dr. Mitchell monitoring her. All rise. Judge Helen Martinez entered, black robes swishing. She was younger than Walter expected, maybe 40, with eyes that had seen things. Be seated. She shuffled papers, looked directly at Walter. Mr. Morrison, you understand why we're here? Yes, Your Honor. The county has safety concerns about maintaining a 2,000-pound blind elephant on residential property. You have 1 hour to convince me otherwise. County Attorney Phillips stood, smooth in his delivery. Your Honor, while we sympathize with Mr. Morrison's attachment to this animal, facts are facts. It's a wild creature, uncontainable by normal means, presenting clear danger to neighboring properties. He presented exhibits, photos of Memory's size, documentation of elephant attacks worldwide, insurance liability assessments. Professional, thorough, devastating. Mr. Morrison, Judge Martinez said, your response. Walter stood, his knee locked, then released. The new dog rose with him. Your Honor, I was 19 when they sent me to Firebase Alpha. The courtroom stilled. Second week there, this dog showed up. Skinny thing, ribs showing, probably from a village we'd burned. Walter's hand shook slightly. He pressed it against his leg. Should have chased it off. Dogs compromise security. But something about how it looked at us. He stopped, swallowed, continued. We fed it, named it Lucky. Dumb name for Vietnam. But that dog knew things, knew incoming mortar before we heard it. Knew which patrol routes were wrong, even when command said go. Saved 17 lives the night the firebase got overrun. Mr. Morrison, the county attorney interrupted. This is touching, but irrelevant. Let him finish. Judge Martinez said, Lucky died getting us to the extraction point. Took shrapnel meant for me. Walter's voice cracked. I carried his body 3 miles because I couldn't leave him for the jungle. He looked around the courtroom, at veterans scattered throughout, some nodding, some looking away. Came home, got married, divorced, drank, stopped drinking, worked jobs, lost jobs, 40 years of going through motions. He found Nguyen in the 3rd row. Never told anyone about Lucky, about Alpha, about any of it. The new dog leaned against his leg. 10 years ago, I got Echo, grandson of some military working dog. Wasn't looking for a dog. But the shelter was going to put him down. Aggressive. They said untrainable. Walter almost smiled. First night, he slept by my bed. First time I'd slept through since 1960. Tom Brennan stood up in the gallery. Your Honor, if I may. You're out of order, Mr. Brennan. I know, but you need to hear this. Tom moved forward despite the bailiff's warning. I've been Walter's neighbor for 15 years. Complained about everything, his fence, his horse, his dog barking. Know what I never complained about? The screaming. Walter's face burned. 3, 4 nights a week, we'd hear him. Nightmares, calling names, unit numbers, sometimes in Vietnamese. Tom looked at Walter. Sorry, but they need to know. Since the elephant, Judge Martinez asked. Nothing, not once. He sleeps. We all sleep. Dr. Mitchell stood. Your Honor, I have documentation. Memory's presence correlates with a 73% reduction in reported PTSD symptoms among the veterans who visited. We don't understand the mechanism, but the results are measurable. County Attorney Phillips shuffled papers. Anecdotal evidence is evidence, Judge Martinez interrupted. She looked at Walter. Mr. Morrison, tell me about the elephant. She was born blind. Mother rejected her. 4 failed placements. They brought her to me to die. Walter's voice steadied. I didn't try to save her. Just sat with her. Let her know she wasn't alone. That's all any of us want, Your Honor. To be recognized, just to have someone acknowledge we're still here. The safety concerns. She's never hurt anyone, never tried. She stands between threats and the vulnerable. She protected Echo during seizures. She calms traumatized veterans. She does what Lucky did, recognizes need and answers it. And Judge Martinez turned to the county attorney. Mr. Phillips, your liability assessments assume normal elephant behavior. Is memory normal? Well, no, but has she shown any aggressive behavior? Not documented, but has anyone filed an actual complaint since the petition was withdrawn? Phillips looked through his papers. No, Your Honor. Judge Martinez leaned back. I served in Iraq, 2003. Fallujah. The courtroom went silent. We had a dog on base, just showed up one day, adopted us. Command said, get rid of it. Security risk. She paused. That dog found 3 IEDs, saved 12 Marines. She looked directly at Walter. Mr. Morrison, I'm granting permanent variance. Memory stays. But she held up a hand. Monthly inspections, proper fencing within 60 days, liability insurance, and you work with the VA on a formal program for veterans. Yes, Your Honor. This court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted, reporters pushing forward, veterans shaking Walter's hand, the Pentagon official trying to hand him business cards. Walter pushed through them all, the new dog clearing a path. Outside, he found Nguyen smoking regular Marlboros, not Lucky Strikes. You okay? Nguyen asked. No, but better than yesterday. They drove back to the ranch in silence. Memory still stood over Echo's grave, but something had changed. Her posture had shifted from guarding to waiting. Tom's truck was already there, along with 6 others, veterans from the courtroom, unloading lumber, wire, posts, building. What's this? Walter asked. Proper fencing, Tom said. Judge's orders. Figured we'd help. By sunset, they'd finished the first section. Memory had moved for the first time, investigating the new barriers, learning their shape with her trunk. The new dog Walter still couldn't name it, helped by carrying tools, knowing somehow what was needed before being asked. Mr. Mitchell arrived as they were cleaning up. Mr. Morrison, there's something else. She led him to her van, opened the back. Inside was a travel crate. Something rustled inside. The sanctuary in Nevada, they have another blind elephant, older female named Grace. She's been calling at the same frequency as Memory. You want to bring her here? She's already in transit. Arrives tomorrow. Walter looked at Memory, standing now with the new dog beside her, both facing east, toward whatever came next, 6 months later. Walter stood in the same spot, watching Memory teach Grace the boundaries of their expanded habitat. The elephants moved together now, Memory's youth balancing Grace's experience. The dog, he'd finally named it Hope, lay in the shade with 3 other dogs, all rescues from various situations. They'd just appeared over the months, drawn by something. School buses arrived twice weekly now. Children's voices carried across the property as Memory performed her version of greeting, trunk raised, ears forward, that low hum that made everyone feel recognized. Mr. Morrison. A young man approached, maybe 22, Army uniform, fresh from Walter Reed, both arms gone above the elbow. Yeah. They said you'd understand. Walter looked at the kid's eyes, saw Firebase Alpha, saw Fallujah, saw Kandahar, saw every war that took pieces and left ghosts. I don't understand anything, Walter said, but I can sit with you while we figure it out. The soldier nodded. They walked together toward Memory and Grace. The elephants turned before they got close, already knowing. Always knowing, Hope rose from the shade, positioned himself between the soldier and the elephants. Not blocking, bridging. Memory's trunk reached out, found the soldier's shoulder. The touch was brief, light. The soldier's eyes filled, but didn't overflow. "She knows," he whispered. "Yeah," Walter said. "She knows." That night, Walter sat on the porch where he'd always sat, Hope beside him where Echo had been. Memory and Grace stood close enough to hear his breathing, far enough to give him space. The stars were the same. The desert smelled the same. His knee hurt the same. But the silence was different now, not empty. Full of recognition, of being seen, of continuing. He thought about Echo, about Lucky, about all the dogs and soldiers and elephants who'd taught him the same lesson different ways. We don't save each other. We just remember we're here, together. The letters arrived daily now. From Phoenix, Tulsa, Portland. Veterans who heard about memory, parents with damaged children. They ask how it works, this thing between elephant and human grief. I tell them I don't know. But here's what I've learned. Memory doesn't heal anyone. Neither did Echo. They just stand witness to what we carry. Sometimes that's enough, having another heartbeat nearby that knows weight without naming it. Tom helps with the new fencing. Nguyen teaches Vietnamese to the school kids who visit. Hope that dog with Echo's service numbers leads other rescued dogs here like he's following some map I can't see. Grace and Memory move as one body now. Blind eyes useless, everything else acute. They know before we do who needs what. A trunk touch here, that humming there. Recognition without words. The ranch is crowded these days. Broken people and damaged animals. None of us fixed. All of us seen. We don't share war stories or trauma. We share silence that isn't empty anymore. That's all I can offer. Not hope, not healing, just the truth that sometimes staying is enough. This is a work of fiction inspired by stories of veteran animal bonds created solely for entertainment purposes. This story does not condone, encourage, or promote any form of violence or harmful behavior. All characters and events are products of the author's imagination, and any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. The therapeutic relationships depicted between humans and animals, while inspired by real documented cases of animal-assisted therapy, are fictionalized and should not replace professional medical or psychological treatment for PTSD or other conditions.